Thank you very much. I'd like to start this off by making sure that we understand what we really mean by teacher quality, because as we look at some information from the National Center for Educational Statistics, that center seems to suggest that many people think different things about teacher quality. And so I like to frame my comments around the idea of the elements that most people tend to agree of what teacher quality means, and that is teacher preparation and qualification, and then teaching practices. And so in that context, I want to talk to you about what we do at Howard in terms of teacher preparation and qualifications. One of the initial things that we do at Howard in terms of our teacher preparation and qualifications, we don't admit students to the program unless they have passed Praxis 1 initially. You can't really come to Howard and to say you want to be a teacher educator and not have taken and passed Praxis 1. You also have to apply to the program after you have taken that Praxis 1 and passed it. And I need to say that we have a pretty good record of that. I spoke with our statistician this morning, and she indicated that last year our passage rate was about 85%. This year is about between 2014, 2015, it was about 95% passage rate. So we're doing pretty good in that area. But in addition to that, we introduce our students to a year-long internship, student teaching internship. The first semester is devoted to a domestic internship, and the second semester is one that we encourage them to do an international experience. But as they are being prepared, we also have field experiences associated with all of our courses so that students get a really good feel for what they're encountering, what they're going to encounter when they start teaching, because they start very early having those connections to schools. And I need to say that these schools are generally diverse schools, because we want our students to know that the challenge of teaching is great. And so we then will put them in diverse schools so that they're going to be confronted with the real issues that teachers are impacted by. And so the other things that we tend to do in terms of how we do what we do at Howard is that we have checkpoints along the matriculation. And so one of those things we tend to look at is teacher dispositions, because we know that everybody who says they want to be a teacher is not someone who really needs to be in the classroom. And so what we do with this teacher disposition assessment, during one of their foundation courses, we actually administer this teacher disposition to find out, are you really ready to do this thing you call teaching? And if they are not, then it gives us, that assessment gives us an opportunity to really help shape them, if you will. And if we can't shape them, we actually will make a comment to say, well, maybe teaching is not where you need to be. Maybe there's some other place that you need to go and some other work that you need to do, but not teaching. Along with that, in one of the foundation courses, the one that I teach, we also ask teachers to take an emotional intelligence assessment, because we want teachers to understand that there are stressors that impact their ability to teach. And so this emotional intelligence assessment, coming from the work of Daniel Goleman, is actually something that we do because we want teachers to know that, yes, teaching is hard, but we need you to be emotionally stable enough in order to do what it is you want to do. Because when you're confronted with kids who have multiple needs, it's not just academics, but multiple needs, we really want you to be ready for that. And then finally, we undergird all of this in something we call the talent development model. And the talent development model is a model whereby we ask teachers to focus on the strengths of the students rather than the deficits. Because it's too long we have been talking about the deficits that students bring to classes. And we know from our work at Howard University that students, no matter how horrible those environments are, they are coming with some strengths. And so we encourage our student teachers to look at those strengths to see how we can draw upon them to help engage our students, to collaborate with our students, to make them to allow them to bridge that gap between low academics and high academics. Because one of the things that the talent development model does, which is coming from the work of Wade Boykin at Howard, one of the things that it does is that it helps to focus on those strengths so that students then are able to say, okay, I may not be the best reader, but I can do something else that can benefit the classroom environment. And as a teacher, we want our students to capitalize on those strengths. And then finally, we want students to be able to understand that the classroom is just like a larger society. And so we say to them, your classroom is a replication of what we expect in the larger society. And so we ask them to treat their classroom as it is a community. And we help them build strategies to enhance that classroom community so that everybody feels more included, more acceptable, and feel like they have something to offer. And it's these kinds of things that if we say to these students, we want you to use these things to help bridge the gap, because no matter how bad a child is, no matter how difficult a child is, he or she has some good things that can contribute to the well-being of that classroom. And we encourage our students to find those things through the talent development model. Now, we also, when we talk about some of the strategies that we use in order to do that, one of the things that I do in my class, foundation class, promote this sense of community. We call it the cooperation circle, right? And this cooperation circle is simply a circle where students hold hands and connect with each other, and they lean backwards. And leaning backwards allows them to, number one, feel like they're responsible enough to hold on to the other person beside them. And then it also kind of focuses on the issue of students being able to trust each other, because if I'm going to work in the context of a cooperative community, I have some input in that. And so the circle says, in order for the circle to maintain its consistency, you got to cooperate, you got to collaborate, and you got to be able to trust me enough to know that I'm not going to hurt you, because if I hurt you, then I'm going to hurt myself. And so these are the kinds of things we want to say to students in their training, to say, look, if we really want to promote this sense of classroom community, these are the kinds of things that we want to do. We want you to make sure that you capitalize on the students' strengths. We want to make sure that you build this community, because when children understand that they have a role in the community, they then are able to contribute more effectively. We also use this concept that comes from Rudolf Dreikas's work, where he talks about democratic teaching. And democratic teaching is a type of teaching where teachers are encouraged to share their classrooms with their students. I'm not the purveyor of all knowledge. I'm a facilitator of knowledge. And therefore, if I can capitalize on this democratic teaching, I'm not only helping you understand that you have a role in this situation, but you also can carry that to your home communities and help improve those communities, so that there's a synergistic way of being able to move from the classroom to the community and have some understanding of my role in this small place called the classroom, but also my role in the larger place of the community outside of the classroom. Was that 15 minutes?
I think we were a little fast for 15
Oh,
minutes.
okay. Should I go? Should I continue?
If you got a couple more minutes.
All right. So some other things that we do. In order for us to promote this idea of field experiences, one of the things that we tend to do is we invite people from administrators, teachers, from other districts, and they come in through our TAC meetings or teacher advisory meetings. They also help us in our interviews for students who are trying to become teachers. And these people come in and they actually tell us what they expect our students to be able to do when they come to if they should apply to their districts. And we find that that information is extremely valuable to us in terms of helping us build our skill set for our students. And it is it has been very instrumental, because we get really good feedback. This past Friday, Dr. Bonner, who is the director of teacher education, conducted some interviews, and she was able to videotape some of the comments that these professionals from other districts was able to share with our students. And it was very, very meaningful. And so we find that this approach helps our students to better be prepared for the rigors of the schools in which they're going to be employed, or the districts in which they're going to be employed. There are a number of other things that we do. We talk about the techniques and the strategies of an effective teacher, and we outline those things. We also teach our students how to be advocates for themselves as well as for their students, because we understand and we have learned from our research that students don't always know how to advocate for themselves once they become first-year teachers. And so we teach them how to create an agenda to take it to their supervisors and say, these are the things that I'm concerned about in terms of my personal and professional growth at the school. And I need to talk with you about those things so that I can be successful, my students can be successful, and the school can be successful. It's rare that we have schools, teacher preparation programs, talking to students about being self-advocates. And I find that as a practitioner, as a researcher, teaching self-advocacy skills to our students who are trying to be teachers is extremely important. And I would encourage everyone to think about doing that if you're not doing it.